Well, thank you. Welcome back, everybody. I apologise to those who have been online. We had a person approach us that arrived that we needed to discuss in committee. I apologise for those that then faced the disruption of wanting to listen to council news. We will try not to let that happen in the future. I believe we're now up to item number 10, the reports for decision. 10.1, the Parks Upgrade Partnership application from Martin Lions Club. Would somebody move the report be received? Councillor Wilson, Councillor Kalkin, those in favour?
Aye.
Those against, carried. Ms Prinsett, are you going to take us through this?
Thank you, Your Worship. I apologise that the attachment was missed off the report when it was circulated. I have circulated a hard copy to you all and emailed to the two councillors online. So just confirming that the Martins Lion are requesting $7,000 from the Parks Upgrade Partnership to install an electric barbecue out at Dunning Lake. The application does comply and there is sufficient funds in the Park Upgrade Partnership. Thank you.
I think it would be useful, councillors, if somebody was putting a motion on the floor to speak to this. Councillor Wilson.
To move in favour of the application to the funds and for the amount stated of $7,000.
Councillor Kalkin, are you wishing to second? Questions of the report? Anyone? Speakers.
Thank you, Worship. I think that's this application exactly what we want to see, and I think it exemplifies what the outcomes are from the Parks Upgrade Partnership. I think that's exactly what the purposes of it are for. I am very pleased to hear comment from staff that it meets the requirements of the application, and therefore am happy to support the application for the benefit of the community.
Other speakers? If not, I'll put it straight to a vote. The vote, those in favour? Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. And can you please, staff, can you pass on a note of congratulations to Martin Lions for their initiative? Moving to 10.2, the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs. This is a variation agreement. Somebody like to move that it would be received? Councillor Duncan, Councillor Wilson, those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Who's taking us through this? Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you. Due to the successful contract progress to date with our contractor placing over 50 people in employment and meeting all the outcomes, we've been offered an extra $200,000 by Local Government New Zealand towards this project. The funds need to be spent by the end of June. A draft program has been prepared by the contractor and has had the approval of Local Government New Zealand. Has further questions?
I'll speak to this and move the recommendations. In fact, I think I can move all of them because they all run together. So I'll speak to that if there is a seconder to that. Councillor Wilson, second. You're going to second as well?
Sure.
Or thirding again?
No, I'll go second. Ladies before gentlemen.
I'll let Kizzy, I'll let you sort that. The reason I'll speak to this is literally money from government in recognition of an outstanding program. We're leading the field in terms, and my appreciation to James, Louise and the team that are involved in this. They've done such a fantastic job that MSD effectively had some money that was sitting within Local Government New Zealand, and they said, let's give it out to somebody who's actually demonstrated a fantastic record of achievement. I'll leave it there, but it's a recognition of something that's been amazing as a program. questions?
Yes, so were we the only council to get this extra funding?
No, there were some other
Oh, yeah.
councillors that received some extra funding, but a huge number of councils that are in the program did not.
Thank you.
So it was a selection base. Councillor Duncan, question?
Yes, I have a question. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to our contractor, but also to this council, obviously, and the confidence they have with our mayor, who's been part of this from the beginning. So I think that's also reflected in this. But I just picked up on what Ms. Plinth just said about the draft contract, which has gone to MSD. So I'm assuming that came from the contractor, and he has confidence that he can deliver that before the June deadline.
Yes.
Yeah,
The
thank you.
contractor was involved in setting the program.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Loudon.
The tremendous effort that James has done, 50 jobs. Can I ask, of those 50 people he's placing employment, are they still employed? Are they longer term jobs or full employment? What's the...
Councillor Loudon, quite happy to send the stats on to you. With all employment, of course, there are some that don't continue with that employment or change jobs, but the outcome response from the placements in our district has been incredibly high in terms of permanent jobs.
Thank you.
Some of that, of course, is seasonal in nature as well. You know, so you get companies like Spears that go through periods of needing more and more staff. But yeah, but quite happy to try and provide those reports to you. In fact, can we take that as an action?
Thank you.
I think some of them have gone out already, haven't they? Carly?
In the past, we have reported on them.
Yeah, so they have formed parts of reports, especially policy planning. They sit within that area under Joe, so
Your Worship, yeah. We can make the current reports through Your Worship available. We have a March report that they send to us. If council was want to see that, we could do that as well.
yeah, I'll just take it. In fact, I don't even want it recorded as an action in the schedules, if you like, just happens. Councillor Rokawa, question?
And just to say that well done to James and the team. But where they're situated now looks great. The office looks great. It's central. I've been past a few times, walked in. Looks great. Well done.
Thank you very much. Did we carry that? No, we didn't. Put it to vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. 10.3. Koitiata drainage.
Declare of conflict of interest here. I, up to the 28th of February 2023, was employed by OB Group, who own the Plains Trust. I wasn't involved with any of the stuff out there, but so what do you step back?
Thank you. Can that be recorded, please? Conflict of interest with regard to this item for Councillor Maughan. Would somebody like to move the receipt of the report? Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Carter seconding. Those in favour? Those against?
Just clarification, do I step back?
You don't have a pecuniary advantage here. I'm quite happy, Councillor, if you stay at the table. Dina, who's taking us through this?
Damien will actually.
Right, thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll take the report as read, but due to the volume of information provided in the attachment, I'll go through a couple of highlights. So the paper's been prepared following a meeting last year between local residents who raised issues about ponding, inundation and flooding of the wetland area south of the village. That meeting was held with council officers. This issue that's presented in this paper is not the issue of the lagoon flooding, which has previously been raised with council. This is a separate new issue related to a separate area. The lagoon issue we'll come back to you as a separate paper once we've undertaken appropriate levels of due diligence on the information that we're receiving. Yeah, so just to point out the difference, this one doesn't affect habitable dwellings or personal life. There's photographs included in attachment 2 of the memorandum demonstrating the extent of the inundation occurring at the moment. The ponding is within the recreational reserve owned by the Department of Conservation but administered by Rangitikei District Council. The request from the community is for council to provide for a level of service that we do not rate for. We do not rate for wetland drainage as a level of service. The inundation being experienced in the wetland is as a result of a number of factors, including natural sand movements experienced on West Coast dune systems. The area contains at least 2, if not 3 or 4, significant habitats from the Horizons Regional Council 1 plan, being dune slackland wetland, ephemeral wetland, stable dune land, and active dune land. The site is also within the Rangitikei District Council's district plan overlay of an outstanding landscape and natural feature. It also triggers provisions under the National Policy Statement for Freshwater Management. In preparing the advice of the memorandum, we've undertaken consultation with both consenting authorities, so Horizons Regional Council and our own planning teams. We've been advised that a resource consent would be required to do work if we were to choose to do any work in this location, and that the likelihood of gaining a consent to do physical works in a wetland in an active dune system is very low. The costs of the consenting program are low certainty because we haven't been able to go down that pathway yet. So there, at the moment, there is estimated in the vicinity of $1.6 million purely for consenting, and that would be comparable to where we're looking at with resource consents for wastewater treatment plants and the likes. And the estimated timeframe for doing such a consent is at least 3 to 5 years, and that's very conservative. That could easily go further than that. The report, the memorandum outlines the number of stakeholders involved, which is to say the least substantial. Due to the nature of the source of flow into the wetland, there needs to be further work done on looking at those contributing sources. So Council has the ability to support Horizons Regional Council in that aspect of the work, and that's what's being brought forward within the report. There are a number of issues within the wetland catchment that have been identified. There's been large-scale earthworks undertaken in the contributing catchment. There's been irrigation schemes introduced into the contributing catchment. Both of those activities sit within the jurisdiction of Horizons Regional Council. There's also the issue of if you undertake works within the land that the Rangitikei District Council administers, it is a landlocked parcel of land, so it will trigger a requirement for further actions on neighbouring parties to undertake their works, the downstream party being the Crown in the coastal marine area. I think that about wraps up the highlights.
I'll just comment on the workshop last week with Horizons, and it's not all elected members were part of it.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a workshop last week with representatives from Horizons Regional Council. The 2 issues of the lagoon and of this wetland were discussed. They were kept separate. The issue around the wetland, the advice received from the Chief Executive, Michael McCarthy, was that consent would be unlikely to be granted for such works as managing stormwater or surface water in a wetland.
Thank you. Before I ask somebody to move some recommendations, congratulations on the report. It's really, really well put together. It's informative. There's been a high public interest. So thank you very much for that. Would somebody like to move a recommendation? Councillor Wilson?
To move the recommendation to
As it stands.
as it stands.
Looking for a second to that. Councillor Cowcan, you're seconding. You wish to speak to the recommendation?
But very, very briefly, I endorse your earlier comments about the quality of the report that was delivered. It gave a lot of great deal of background for us to understand what the issue was, and thank you for that. I think one of the key takeouts for me was this is we're not unique in this, and not too far south in a neighbouring direction there are similar issues. So I think that was a good takeout. This is not a unique situation, particularly when you've got moving dunes. They go where they go.
Speaking to the motion?
No, I've just got a question, please.
Certainly.
I'm just interested around page 12 and the question of Horizons had previously requested RDC to undertake the consent application because they thought they couldn't, and then we're saying now they can. Can you elaborate on that?
That relates to the resource consent for the dunes, for the lagoon, rather than the wetland.
Oh, I see. Oh, thank you. Beg your pardon.
Councillor
Clarification, where is the drainage? Is it from the forest to the wetlands, or from the wetlands to the lagoon? Or from the township to the lagoon?
If I can reference a diagram within the memorandum, it's probably easier to explain that way. It is from farmland to forest to recreation reserve that we administer through to coastal marine area.
Oh, I'd be interested in you taking us through that on the budget. If you can, what page are you talking about? Page 53, do we think?
Possibly page 9. No. Page 9, I think, of the memorandum to the Chief Executive is probably.
Page 59.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. So the diagram there depicts the blue line being the natural water course that shows it flowing through the adjacent farmland, through the forest, and then entering into the recreation reserve land, which I've not mapped the flow of the path through the recreation reserve land, as the photographs show that it's widespread ponding that's resulting there. So it's almost like sheet flow discharge once it hits the wetland, which would be a natural occurrence when dunes are moving.
Councillor Rakawa?
Yeah, on page under 10.3 land ownership, it says that all landowners have represented at meetings with the exception of the Tirakina Hapu Charitable Trust. But I see there that one of the trustees for the trust is represented there. I just wanted to understand, did you know, did they know that he was the not chairperson, that he is the trustee on the Hapu Trust? Ross Woon, I see he's in there.
He did not make that apparent at the time that the meeting was held.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Wong?
I see that
you have said the Horizons has indicated that will not approve a resource to do the work, and it's going to cost significant money if it was done. Then the question is, why would Horizons take over this from us if we decide to give them the defer to them? What's in it? Will they ask us for money, or how does this all work?
The use of Horizons to manage the process is the management of increase. Something's changed in the wetland in terms of the amount of volume of water getting into there. And so if we manage the volume of water that was entering it pre any developments that have occurred within the catchment, then the previous status quo would be functioning. It's simply the fact that there's been a significant increase in flow into.
Or has Horizons indicated they would take over this from us?
This motion seeks to have them
take it over,
remain responsible for the management of surface water runoff within their catchments.
It seems like a hot, expensive potato.
Maybe can I just
Yeah,
clarify?
yeah.
So Horizons wouldn't take over doing a resource consenting process as what we were currently looking at. They would take over the responsibility to look into this matter and try to find out maybe where the causes are and how maybe they can be remediated. So it's not that it wouldn't be maybe the same process, but it would be up to them to manage what to do. So we wouldn't dictate to them what they need to do. They just would take it over and manage it as they see fit.
Thank you.
Certainly the village sees Horizons as the exacerbator, the one that's caused the issue by reforming of land profile and the Plains Trust and other land. But it's the resource consenting process that would become inescapably large and just unaffordable. Any other speakers to the motion? Councillor Wilson, I'm sure if you're deemed to have a right to reply, but there's on the basis. Otherwise, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Item that we move now to 10.4, the notice of motion. It's a notice of the motion from Councillor Cowcombe. In terms of a recommendation one, it can be approved by the Chief Executive and the Chair that the requirements have been met by notice of motion. It's not a vote process. They have been met, so that is achieved. Recommendation 2, the Council agrees with, does not agree to revoke the resolved minute. Councillor Cowcombe, are you moving that? Yes. I'll second that. Any questions with regard to that? I'll just let staff catch up a little bit there.
Agree or does not agree?
Agrees to revoke. Do you wish to speak to that?
Yes, I would briefly like to, and just address the fact that at the time that we made the decision to extend the loan to the Society for 3 further years and continue to charge the interest, I believe there was a low understanding of the impact of the decision on the Society. And myself, along with others, I'm sure, were really impressed with the presentation from Paul on behalf of the Society. The purpose of the motion is for us to make a better informed decision, and to do so, we need to address the original decision that was made.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll put that to a vote. So the revocation means you can literally start again here. What's the vote? Those in favour? Those against? Carried. And you're also moving recommendation 3, I presume, that council agrees to write off the loan in full, including any accrued interest since the inception of this loan. You wishing to so move? I'll second it. Is any questions around this? This is because this has been of high interest. I'm prepared to waive the 3 speakers for, 3 speakers against, if that is the view of council. Are you happy with that? Because I think there might be a few people that wish to speak to this. Councillor Cowcombe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, to begin with, I feel that the Bullston District Historical Society are owed a debt of gratitude for what they've done to a council-owned building. Without the efforts of their team, council would have an empty, earthquake-prone building which would deteriorate over the coming years until we're forced into a position to do something about it as part of the upcoming earthquake-prone building legislation. The organisation, in my opinion, in good faith, approached RDC to take up occupation of the building with a vision to create what's a pretty impressive space. As part of the occupation, we're all aware of the request of council to lend funds for the purpose of strengthening the building. Sorry, let me just get this right. And whether we do or don't agree with the decision to actually lend them the funding, the fact of the matter is that they have received the funding from us to do so. I'm moving for council to not ask for repayment of this loan and waive the interest back to the beginning. And waiving the need for repayment and interest, we're actually allowing the society to move forward with their project without the shadow of debt hanging over them for any future funding applications. We're also receiving extremely good value for money as a result of this money. We're going to have a building that meets the minimum requirements for earthquake-prone legislation. It's occupied with engaged tenants who are intent on creating what's going to be a pretty special space for not just the community, but also visitors to our community who are going to stop past on their way through, get a pretty cool experience, and then hopefully spend further money on our Bulls High Street. So I'm in favour of moving this forward.
Okay, a couple of points around this. I'll presume that you're reading from a noted notes rather than a prepared statement. And there's a technical reason for that. But I need to understand from your notice of motion and your explanation where that sits in terms of council. So I ask Mr. Toombs through the Chief Executive, is that right?
Yes, please.
The first comment's actually a point of clarification, if I may. The strict wording of that refers to writing off accrued interest. When you verbalise that, I think you mentioned repaying any interest that's been paid, and they're 2 slightly different things. So I just want to make sure the recommendation's clear on what it's seeking. Accrued interest is interest that might have been earned but not yet paid. So there is accrued interest, but I believe there's also interest that has been paid. So I just want to be clear on what it is that's seeking to be repaid. The writing off the loan's quite clear, but the interest.
And I wondered about that. If you just remove the word accrued and just kept it simple as interest.
And yeah, you'd have to slightly reword it. Writes off the loan and repay any interest that's been paid. If that's what you're after.
Your decision, it's your motion.
Absolutely.
Are you seeking any change?
Just to amend it to any interest since the inception.
Any interest? Just hang on, it's his motion. Any interest at all?
Can I suggest just go writes off / payback or repay?
Council agrees to write off the loan in full, including any interest, can we say charged?
Well, just say all interest.
So I'm just looking for some advice on the right wording there, based on the intent.
I would say council agrees to write off / repay the loan in full, including interest, since inception. Then that tells me to repay the interest that has been paid and not to charge any outstanding.
Happy with that? I'm happy with it as a seconder. questions of, while they're doing that, questions of the officers. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you. It's actually about the previous one, the revocation of that agreement. Do we need to note that there was a 75% in there, in the vote? Is that required? No.
Same meeting.
No. Yeah, so to revoke something, if it happens within the meeting, and it can only be brought up if there is further evidence available to revisit a decision. If it's within the meeting, it requires a 75% majority to do so. Outside of the meeting, no. Simple vote. Councillor Moore, question?
Yeah, because I want to support the motion, but I don't want to support any interest paid already being repaid back.
It's up to you to determine. Are you speaking to it?
Not at this stage.
All right. I'm giving everybody the opportunity just to speak once here, and I will stick to that, other than write a reply. This side of the table, do you wish to speak? No.
Yes, I'd like to thank the Bulls District Historical Society for coming back to us and explaining fully the situation. One thing that stood out for me was they're because the work is done, they're unable to seek funding elsewhere because most of those organisations will not give out funds retrospectively.
Thank you. I'll take a turn. We'll go around this way. I'm speaking in favour of this. Originally, I spoke around. I could see this as a possible end result going forward. The need to bring the earthquake building up to earthquake-prone status. I questioned around the affordability of that as a condition of lease. However, they were also getting also the public building, and I stress the public component of this. Essentially, they have solved a problem for council, and they've solved it with a great outcome in terms of its use. So I think the outcome is absolutely fine. I think the process has been a little bit messy and could establish some precedent in terms of other groups wanting to come back at us. Leave it there. You guys don't get to speak. Councillor Duncan, speak.
Yes, I'd like to also, I'm very much in support of the great work that the Bulls Historical Society has done with this building. It's going to be great. I have concerns around precedents, and I think it should be noted quite strongly that the process that they went through, from my understanding, was messy, and there was a bit of a sea change that happened within what I understand would normally have been funded. That put them in a very difficult position, and I don't believe the precedence is so strong in this case because of that, because now we're operating with new rules. And as Councillor Dalkety said, it then put them in the position of not being able to seek further funding. So I'm very strongly in favour of this and wish them all the best.
Councillor Moore.
One question, and then have we got any idea how much interest has been paid?
Yeah, I just had a quick look. For tranche one, going up until Christmas, it would have been between 2.5 and 3 grand. So 9 months worth of 159 grand at around 3.54%. So 2.5, 2.6.
Okay, I'll speak in support of the motion for all the reasons that have been bandied around the room, I think.
I'll go to
Paul and his team.
I'm in agreement with the motion, but I think that we should revisit the original agreement regarding rent. If we're giving them now a building that is completely compliant in that respect, we shouldn't be giving them a peppercorn rental for 30 years. And I'd like to, after this, revisit another recommendation 5.
That's your option. Councillor Wilson, and then I'll go to the Councillor Loudon. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Just noting there that the original motion, which has now been revoked, noting that I was the mover of it, would like to go on record as saying that I'm happy that the correct procedure has been applied to the revoking of that decision for the information that's been given.
Thank you. Councillor Loudon.
I'd like to support the motion and I'd like to thank Jared for bringing it to the table. I think it's the right outcome for council and for the Bulls Historical Society.
Councillor Rokawa, do you wish to speak?
Yes, of course. Thank you. I'd like to speak in support of this motion from Councillor Kilkin, and kudos to the Society for what they've done and will be doing to promote bulls and the community. I think it also is the right thing to do. Kia ora.
Back to you, right of reply. It's difficult when everybody's in favour, isn't it?
I'd just again like to double down on all the comments that have been said. I couldn't agree more with them.
I now must put it to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Can I just ask the head of finance and all the other terms that you go by?
Some slides.
This does have an effect on our annual plan. How's that dealt with?
Okay, can I answer that through 3 or 4 separate comments? So basically what this means is this financial year, we are going to write off a loan. So there'll be an expense on our P&L account in old terminology of 150k. From a cash perspective, we're not really any worse off. We've already got rid of the money. So we have an expense this year that wasn't budgeted for. So there will be an unbudgeted expense. In isolation, any unbudgeted operation expense is debt funded by nature, unless it comes with rates or loans. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is you could say that, hey, we've got roughly 200k worth of unbudgeted interest earned that we've received during the year. So that sort of offsets it and negates it. Okay. They're both valid statements. Importantly, this decision will not have any material impact on our next long-term plan.
Thank you. I just note for the record that Councillor Lambert has just joined us. He hasn't heard all the motions, so I won't ask for his particular view, having not heard all the arguments around it. Congratulations. You have walked out of this room with a sizable weight, I guess, off your shoulders, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. With your permission, Your Worship, can we just show you something quickly?
How quickly?
Very quickly.
Just
I'll give you a maximum of a minute.
It'll be less than a minute.
Just while that's happening, could we perhaps move recommendation 4? Because I don't believe that's been addressed.
And I'll come back to you, Councillor Carter. You're wishing to move?
I'm wishing to move recommendation 4 as worded.
I don't know whether you can see it, but
Just hold on, please. You're moving recommendation 4 as worded. Seconded. Any discussion? I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. You can have 1 minute.
It's a scale model of what it could look like.
Oh, cool. Who did the model?
Joel Taylor did it for us.
That's lovely.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it could look like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Councillor, I'll go back to Councillor Carter. You verbally foreshadowed a motion.
Thank you.
You verbally foreshadowed a motion. You wish to pursue that?
Regarding the agreement that we had with the rental for the property, which was taken in context of the repayment of the loan, I believe now that there is no debt on the property in that respect, that we revisit the contract for for marketplace rental for the building, rather than I'm not too sure how much it was, for 30 years.
Now, just before I seek a seconder, other buildings that are used for these sorts of functions that attract a rental? In terms of museums and stuff that are council owned?
I'm just trying to think. I think all the other properties are owned by the clubs or organisations that we've got. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. The other thing, and once again, I can't remember the lease conditions off the top of my head, but I think there was also something that they were paying for ongoing maintenance, or I'd need to check that. I don't know, sorry.
I'm prepared to have this brought up the next council meeting.
Thank you very much. That's exactly where I was going. Right, 10.5, the notice of motion, Councillor Kalkin, Haylock Park and Johnson Street Development Bulls. By the way, with notices of motion, there's a couple of things around this. If you know that it is going to be on an agenda in any shape or form, you do not need a notice of motion, unless it is a motion to revoke. Because once something is on an agenda, you have the right as councillors to be able to move what you like in association with an agenda item. However, there is a difference if you're revoking the motion. Okay? The other way is you don't necessarily have to go for a notice of motion. You can have the discussion with the Mayor and Chief Executive before the agenda is set around whether something could be put onto council. So there's different levels of this. I made the comment before, technically you cannot read a long report. You can refer to notes, but it should be a reference to notes, which I was presuming is exactly what you did.
Absolutely.
Right, so you recommend we accept your notice of motion in this count from the Chief Executive myself. Recommendation 2, that council agrees to establish a Haylock Park Advisory Committee, etc. That's your motion. You are so moving that. There's a seconder to it. Councillor Carter, you seconding. Any questions around this?
One question of the mover, should the coastal Maori ward be involved in that group?
You can argue.
I'm just asking if you whether he wants to put it in there already or not.
It's your motion.
Yeah, I would be happy to have that reworded, to have 2 of the 3 appropriate councillors. That wording is satisfactory.
There's a couple of questions I have around this. The first is, I accept that if there is the agree to establish, establishment would need a term of reference. So that would be a given, in my view. Excuse my croaky voice. And I will have something to say in speaking to it, but it's your motion. Do you wish to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. So the purpose of bringing this to council is there is a high level of interest in this parcel of land in Bulls. There is a 90 property or 90 title subdivision going on in the neighbouring property, and there is an understanding from the community that this parcel of land, which was partly, as I understand it, purchased by a member of the community who was a councillor at the time, along with funds from council for the purpose of it being a green and recreational space, currently used for grazing land, and the community has a desire for this space, green space, to be advanced. I feel the best way to advance this, and having spoken to some members of the community, is to establish a committee. This committee will not come with a funding arm. It is purely about getting organised and making sure that there is a strategy and a vision for that particular parcel of land for the future, which will benefit not just the subdivision, but an entire side of Bulls, which is currently cut off from any green space for that kind of purpose by State Highway 1 and 3.
I'm going to speak against this motion. And the reason I'm speaking against this motion is because I don't see that it is in a unique position. I have spoken to all the principals concerned that have been with regard to this, and they're all incredibly comfortable where it's currently landed. The repercussion is that you have all over the district a huge number of groups for all of our green spaces. And history tells me it becomes unworkable and they never meet, or they have a flavour of the month for a couple of months, but it just doesn't. And with regard to this particular piece of land, there were public meetings down at the Domain that said, please do not develop this further, concentrate on the Domain. And that was absolutely I would rather see the Domain one, if anything, being pursued, because that was where the weight of public opinion was. But to be honest, I just don't see the need at the moment. How about other speakers? Councillor Vaughan.
Yes, I'll speak against it too, because council establishing advisory committees, we just get tied up in a whole lot of, we've got to do it for one, we've got to do it for another. I'd much prefer the community get themselves organised and establish their own Haylock Park community panel, and then they can then send them submissions to council or do whatever they think's necessary to get what they want, rather than it be driven by council initiative, as it seems like we're doing here. So yeah, for that reason, I'll speak against it.
2 speakers against, 1 speaker for. Councillor Wilson.
Also speaking against, and I think what we've just had from the presentation from the Bulls and District Historical Society was exactly the way that we can see groups come to council, work within the current mechanisms that we have in place for the betterment of the community. We've seen it on a number of occasions where it's happened. Just here today, we've had the Bulls and Historical Society. We've also had an application from Lions through the Parks Upgrade. That is the correct procedure to bring these matters to the council agenda for discussion. I think the mechanisms are in place, and I would look forward to seeing any group from within the Bulls community come back to us with something exciting for that space. But until such time as we've seen it, I don't think we need any more.
We've had 3 speakers against. I can only take speakers for. Councillor Loudon, do you wish to speak for?
I wish to speak for. I do wish to ask a question. Who actually owns that land now? Had that been established at the who owns that piece of land?
Effectively council owned.
Therefore, shouldn't council initiate the process whereby this piece of land could be developed for a green space that was originally set aside for? My concern is the subdivision that's going in. The section sizes are incredibly small and jam-packed in, and having a desirable green space for that subdivision and for the Bulls community on that side of State Highway 3 is desirable, and I think that should be council-led, because council have been driving this process.
Thank you. Any other speakers for? Councillor Duncan.
Yes, I'd like to speak for, because I'd like to support the fact that Councillor Kalkin is the Southern Ward councillor and has his ear on the ground in a way that I know that I experience in the Northern Ward, and I trust that this has not come out of his back pocket but actually come from the community. as a request. That would be what I would imagine. And also, I know that in the Northern Ward, we have multiple groups, as Your Worship has stated. They do come together, and it's really valuable for the community to think to actually activate and use their voice. So I think in this case, I think this is actually a really good idea.
3 speakers, 3 against, 3 for, back a right of reply.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to those that have spoken for and against this. Look, I take His Worship's comments around the Bulls domain. A lot of those conversations happened before a lot of people in Bulls, almost anyone, could have foreseen the 90 properties that are actually going on to the other side of State Highway 3. And I imagine if you had that same conversation now, that room would be a lot more divided than it was even 12 months ago as a result of. I've seen the success of these sorts of committees in the past do really good things for the community, and I'd like to see us have a crack at it.
I now must put it to the vote. Those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have. Those against. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can we just recount this? I have it at 5 all. Who are we missing? So let's just double check this, please. Those in favour of the motion, can you hold your hands up? I have.
Are you holding your hand up?
I'm just counting. Sorry, you're right. There's one abstention.
Yes.
So those in favour of the motion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we must have an abstention, have we?
Me.
You're abstaining?
Abstaining.
Yeah, that's fine. That means there is a casting vote. So that I'll use the casting vote in the typical way that the status quo remains. So the committee is not set up. If the status quo had been the other way, I would have used it in the same way. Councillor Wilson, could you take the chair while I take this call from regards to Waka Kotahi? Thank you very much. So this, I don't get to use a casting vote very long. I've just about had to bust out the right file.
How's that fence?
Any lollies for you, will it?
Okay, people, thank you. Now moving on to item number 11, reports of information. Would like to just draw members' attention to the time constraints that we are going to be under. So if we can just move along and keep your comments concise and on track with where we're at. So item number 11 is Te Marabihi final closeout report correction. That has been well circulated to all members, and I will take that as read. There is a recommendation that the report for Te Marabihi financial closeout correction be received. I have a move for that from Councillor Dalgety and a seconder from Councillor Kalkin. Is that my understanding? Are there any matters pertaining to that report which has been well circulated to you all that anybody wishes to raise at this stage? Councillor Loud. Yeah, you're on mute, Councillor.
Can I just clarify, the total cost is 8.34 million plus $1 million for the bus lane?
Sorry.
Well, the total cost is $9.4 million in thereabouts.
As the, yeah, so your question is the total cost for the bus lane and the Tamata Bihi build, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
According to the report that I've got looking here in front of me, that total cost is 9,532,628 as in the report that's been circulated. That is correct, as the report has been circulated as in our public document.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions regarding that matter? Being none, we'll move that report received. All those in favour? Against? Consider that one carried. Thank you. Moving on to the project manager's report. Item 11.2. Adina.
Yes, I would be keen to take you through this, ideally actually in order of the numbers. So if we go through the projects briefly, hopefully, there's a little bit of extra miscellaneous, and then there's a deep dive into the Martin Water strategy.
Thank you.
So if I start on the centralisation projects, I'll take any questions if there are any to this project.
One councillor question there, Councillor Maughan.
Just on these 3 bridges, they seem to be not popping up. Popping up in reports fairly regularly. Is that just the consenting that's holding them up? They got the design, they know what they want to do.
Some of the design has been completed, some has to be completed, and a resource consent has to be granted, which in this case is a lot simpler than, you know, a wastewater resource consent.
Yeah.
So it's walking along in the process. It's currently not holding anything up. So we're making sure that we can finish that in very
Things are
short time.
carrying on.
Yes.
And then they can come back and do that.
Yes.
Like Waipu?
I just want to make a correction. I put in there that we have responded to Horizons around the question that we have received, but that's not actually correct. We have had some of the response prepared already by our consultant, and we have support from iwi, but the response will be submitted in the next month.
Does that cause any delays or any concerns?
It's within the normal time frame. I just got a bit too excited, I think, about some.
Thank you. Any further questions on that item? Being none, Taihape Papakai Wastewater Pump Station.
Taking any questions?
Nothing from there, particularly looking for Northern Ward councillors. Happy with the...
Flags of there. I see the road routes have been moved on, so that's really good.
Yeah, they're making progress. Yeah.
And just again, members, just drawing your attention to what's been achieved so far and the future forecasts of upcoming works, a good guideline and steer. Martin Water Strategy, you want to go into that in a bit more detail?
Yeah, but after, I think, at the end of my report.
Okay, we'll come back to Martin Water Strategies that you'd like to do.
Yep.
Thank you.
Then amenities building. The only thing I would like to just point out is that we have names for the 4 changing rooms in the building. We don't have names for 3 smaller rooms that are part of the building. So I wasn't sure if we're going through signage at the moment. We can keep them sort of generic, but I'm happy to take guidance on how we should go about naming those 3 rooms.
Perhaps that's something that the Taihape Northern Ward councillors could get together with staff to work with the user groups up there. Don't know whether that needs to be a recommendation, or how would you see that playing out?
Thank you. Sorry, I was going to call you Your Worship, but Your Worship. Some direction on whether you wish us to go to Northern Ward councillors or users or a community board, and then we'll go to one of those as an action. It doesn't need to be limited.
I'm going to refer to Councillor Duncan here, who's very active in that community. What would you see as the best way forward to facilitate an action on this?
Question through you to Ms Prince, perhaps, how the process was done last time for naming of the rooms, but I would suggest that we should consider that these are utility rooms more than anything else, and if you start naming them pretty flowery things, people might not know what they're for. So they it could be clearer. I mean, it's just my opinion, but what was the process we did with the naming in the first place?
Mrs. Foley,
Sorry.
did the names, but
we did some submissions, so we opened it up to the whole public basically to give us submissions for names. There were only a very small number received, and then it went to the community board for their decision and endorsement. So currently that's how it got named.
Is it appropriate there for Councillor Duncan to liaise with Ms Prince as a and to work with yourself and Nadir and staff with that. Is that a way forward rather than, as has been heard, it's a utility room, but I think we need to go to a public consultation on this one. Is that an appropriate action to go forward? Councillor Wong?
I thought maybe if the staff had emailed the user groups for suggestions and included Councillor Duncan in there, and so just as expansion of
That may be an outcome of Councillor Duncan getting together with Ms Prince and staff. That may be an outcome for that. Councillor Moore.
Just the opening, nearly the end of April. How far into May?
Probably, yeah, middle, end of May is what we're looking at. I've got a site meeting tomorrow, hopefully.
100%? No, sorry.
Pretty hard to put that one on the staff councillor. There's obviously things outside of our control and their control.
You have emailed the park users, I see.
I have communicated with iwi and park users to make sure that everyone is aware of the delay that we have faced.
That's great.
So keeping communication in. Yeah.
Okay, moving on with that. Martin Civic Centre, any further updates?
Nothing for me.
From anybody there? Any questions from, obviously out for as a consultation document at this stage, so no further updates from that. Taiabe Town Hall Library redevelopment, I'm assuming that would be the same status. And Martin Industrial Park and Hub, again, still pending a decision from Environment Courts on that, so I would suspect that there'll be no further questions need to be raised around that, as there's nothing can be gained. Okay, so if we're moving on to that, we've moved that report be received. Water strategy, would you like to come back to us in a bit more detail?
There's actually a couple of things. I've added in some miscellaneous information around the bus lane because that was questioned earlier today in an action. So we have had some conversation with other councils to see how they actually enforce their bus lane, and they gave us some good advice in Tauranga and Auckland actually. So we're looking down that pathway of how would that actually work with cameras and having someone actually enforce it. There's obviously an option and maybe an opportunity to actually actively enforce in our district as well, if someone is already going to look into enforcing into the bus lane. So just as an update, this is where things are at the moment. But we have to wait for the bylaw to go through.
Thank you for adding that last bit. We don't have a bylaw, so we have no way that we can enforce. So let's see once that goes through its proper courses before we look at what actions might fall out of that. Water strategy?
Yep, water strategy. That's basically more detailed information around the progress on the bore, on the treatment plant, any risks. I wanted to just outline what these are and what we're looking into to mitigate them around our communication. I have actually got the infographic just in time, so I might just pass you that over here. Sorry. And the key thing with the Martin Water strategy is that we have received the findings of the quality and flow, and we had a really good meeting with the engineers and project team. We have not received them in time to make a proper recommendation in our report, but it's quite positive. So Mr. Bernardi was in our meeting as well to see there's 3 aquifers that have been looked at, and all of them have some possible options, but there was one identified that actually, has the most positive outlook on this. So I guess the next step for us would be to develop this aquifer to a more established bore. And then we have to start obviously the process around the resource consent to take water from this aquifer, and also the treatment plant upgrades. So there's a whole heap of work now that we can start once the quality is known. So if you want to add something maybe, Arnold, to this?
Just a question about, do you need resource consent to do flow tests and all that sort of stuff? So
No, you don't need for that part, but you do need, when you want to take water ongoing, then you need to get resource consent. So for this process at the moment, we didn't need it.
Yeah.
But there's a very high chance, given the number of bores in the area, and the Tutanui bore is right nearby. We don't see any huge risk in not receiving that consent, but it is a risk that is worth just mentioning that it, you know, it is.
It's good to hear, because a bit of an assurance that the flow rates are looking good, because some of the initial information looked a bit suspect, or, you know, not as good.
Yes.
I thought, oh God, yeah, but that's good, thank you.
It's good, yeah. The only comment I can have is that the quality is very similar to the Tutanui one. So from a treatment perspective, that's good news as well. They're very similar.
If I can jump on there, two things. Further to Councillor Warren's question, have we started the process of resource consenting? And do we, and hearing what we've already heard today about how long consenting takes, should that not be something that we're starting now?
We haven't started. We are hopefully engaging the consultant to do this work. That also includes the design for the upgrades to the treatment plant. The complexity around a resource consent to take water is a lot less than the complexity of wastewater discharge. So that's quite a crucial difference. So we don't expect it to be that onerous. But it is a process we just have to go through.
Comfortable with that answer, thank you. And the second question for me, very quickly, again mindful of time, was the mud cake. It's great terminology, isn't it? Could be an ongoing risk? Is that something that we need to be preparing for in our full production board design, or once we're done, we're in?
Well, it's part of the process, really. So at the moment, it's a board to check what's going on, and there's certain things that they do. But the final production board would have protection against that happening again. It will have much longer screens and a whole lot of other things that will produce a better outcome.
Good. Further question, Councillor Moore?
I'm getting technical now, but I don't want to. Just looking at the infographic.
Yes.
The water from the Calico line bore, does that get treated at source?
Yes, correct.
So it's because it's going straight into the treated water.
Yeah. So at the moment, there's no treatment on that other than chlorination to make sure it's sterile. In the future, we might put a little treatment on that specifically, so it can act as a backup when we need it. At the moment, we just blend it at a rate that it doesn't cause a problem when we need it. But in the future, we might change that.
And with this infographic, the idea of it is that to circulate it obviously with you, and then also to make use of our website and Facebook, just trying to explain it. And I'm quite happy to get feedback, even if you take a few days and have a look at it. If there's anything that you have feedback for that we could change or make easier, or if there's something that's not clear. We're doing a similar type infographic for the wastewater centralisation project as well. So it's just trying to make it a bit easier to understand and put it on one page.
With a view to circulating it wider field, is that?
Yeah.
Yes, excellent. Thank you. Nice and simple to simple read and see. Certainly clears up the difference between dams and reservoirs. There's obviously sometimes a lot of confusion about what those two things actually are. Any further questions on this matter? Moving on, I'll go to Councillor Loudon. Did you have any comment online there, Councillor Lambert and Councillor Raukawa? No comment on this matter, water strategy? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Did we receive that? Okay, I'll move that project management report be received. Second to Councillor Cartler. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. That motion is carried. Thank you. Moving through now to minutes from the previous committee meetings. They have also been well circulated. Rather than going through them individually, I know that many of you sit on these particular committees representing on behalf of council. So I'm sure you would have all delved into the ones that you've particularly attended. Is there any matters arising from any of those meetings that would need to be done to note? Not that we can change them, because we are not the holders of those meetings, so we should only receive them. Nothing? Somebody like to move they be received as a...
Sorry, I have one.
Sorry.
Oh, you're right, we can't change them.
We can't change them.
Okay.
We can only receive them. But
that's fine.
If there's something that's on there that, James, that you may want to take that up with staff, or perhaps back to your relative committees. We're certainly receiving them at this stage.
We receive them all.
Receive them as a block. Thank you. Moved from Councillor Morn, seconded Councillor Carter. Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
I will take that as being accepted, and with that, I believe we now need to move back into public excluded, again, for the reasons as stated online and in the order papers, and to conclude our public excluded meeting from this morning. So we have a move for that as Councillor Carter. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kelkin, thank you. All those in favour?